Could everyone casually shut the fuck up?
Everybody, welcome to Downballot. We do the show live almost every Tuesday, right here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. Also simulcasting to YouTube, Kick, and Odyssey, because fuck Facebook. I'd rather broadcast to Kick, which is where all the neo-Nazis that get kicked off of Twitch go, and then Odyssey, the anti-vaccine website, than broadcast to Facebook. So here we are. You can support this program. Just go to echoplexmedia.com, click the support tab, and link, whatever. Give us money however you want. I'm Producer Dave. You can find me on Grindr.
Producer Dave, are you trying to say that we are not broadcasting live on X right now?
No, certainly not.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's good to know. We know who's watching at least. Well, very good to see you, everyone out there. Good to see you, viewer. Good to see you, chat. ready to get started on another wonderful docket. This is the Councilman coming at you live from an undisclosed location somewhere in the heart of the Deep South Bay. And we're going to be bringing you news from all over the Bay Area tonight. It was a wonderful 2 weeks vacation from Downballot. But as always, when we do take a week off, the shit backs up. So we got to, undo the tap a little bit. Let the valve loosen up and let the derp flow.
We could say it's we've had some news constipation.
Exactly. And now we need to take some Senecot, and chill and maybe watch a little Netflix.
So, just real quick, I don't know what you did today, but friend, my day started, I had to go to Richmond. I overcharged somebody to help them set up their streaming setup because their DJ name is stupid. And so I overcharged them. Their DJ, I swear to you, they call themselves DJ Manifest Destiny.
Oh, this is an asshole tax you charge them, basically.
It's like man, it was so tempting when I found out that was their DJ name to ask them was DJ Smallpox blankets taken?
DJ Manifest Destiny. They want to rock it from one coast to the left coast to the best coast, right?
Holy shit, man.
My goodness.
I overcharged them.
White dude?
Oh, fucking Russian dude.
Oh, absolutely. Wonderful. Wonderful look. Does he perform in blackface?
I don't know.
That would be the only thing that would make it better, probably. Oh my God. Maybe with a little feather headdress and blackface. Oh, it would just be wonderful. Okay, no, sorry.
But then I had to go to Fremont. I went to Fremont.
Why?
Which is fine. I saw my parents and stuff.
Yep. Oh, well, yeah, that's right.
No problematic DJs at my parents' house. The cats were a little bit mean to me because they haven't seen me in a while. But other than that, it was lovely seeing my folks.
You don't slip into the house sometimes and just hear the jungle beats rocking?
No.
That do da do da da. No?
No, my cats don't. The cats don't DJ, I don't think.
They don't DJ, okay. But great, and mom is not into the tables. So.
But I did stop to get an energy drink in Richmond, and I found I think the world's last bottle of Amsterdam pineapple vodka. So I paid the overpriced fucking, after I was like, well, I overcharged this guy so I could pay double what I should be paying for the last fucking handle of pineapple Amsterdam vodka in the fucking Bay Area.
So you paid $4?
No, dude, fucking 31.
Okay.
Usually usually 17 or 18 for a handle of New Amsterdam at the shop, but it's been discontinued. So maybe it's been sitting long enough that it is turned into a hallucinogen too. We'll find out later tonight, everybody, during public comment.
It'll take that long. Okay. I was going to say we better rush through the docket.
No, I don't drink during the white light parts of the show.
Fair enough.
But needless to say, I'm a little bit tired.
I got you. Well, I do drink. I'm during the white light parts, light, a tall hat IPA here from 21st Amendment, but it is 9% alcohol, as they proudly proclaim on the can. So I'll try my best to keep things on the even Stevens, but you never know.
Right on. Well, what do we have for leading off?
Well, leading off is something that's happening literally right now. So we are about 20 minutes away from finding out the at least preliminary results of a vote up in San Mateo County that we've been tracking for quite a while. It's kind of recall adjacent, but because it's the news of the day, it's going to come under leading off, and we're going to find out more about what's happening from ABC 7 News.
Next steps in the saga of San Mateo County's embattled sheriff are now in the hands of voters. Voters are already casting ballots for tomorrow's special election on Measure A. Now, if Measure A is approved, it would give the Board of Supervisors the authority to remove the sheriff from elected office. ABC 7 News political reporter Monica Madden is here with the latest on the vote. Monica.
Dan, this all stems back to allegations that Sheriff Corpus engaged in an inappropriate relationship with her chief of staff, Victor Iyengar. Calls for her removal followed a November report examining accusations that she abused her power, sent racist and homophobic messages, and created a toxic work environment. All allegations she forcefully denies.
I haven't faltered in my job. Like I've said, crime is down, the communities are safe.
On the eve of an election that threatens her career, San Mateo County Sheriff Christina Corpus remains defiant.
I am being crucified in the public eye for allegations.
In an interview with ABC 7 News Monday, the sheriff defends her work, saying she's received unfair treatment.
I've been met with resistance from day one. Holding people accountable has been called retaliation. Disappointed is putting it lightly.
It's uneasiness that has bled into county meetings and divided community activists.
There's just too much turmoil.
Jim Lawrence previously supported Corpus, but says her time has passed.
We really need to get back down to normal. And I certainly hope that she'll step up and say, let's just end this and go forward,
This is just a power grab.
Dan Stedjink says giving the board this type of power sets a bad precedent.
It's a slippery slope. There's no end to it. And quite frankly, it's clear that the state of California never intended for a district elected board of supervisors to have an immediate mechanism to remove a countywide sheriff.
The measure will grant supervisors the ability to remove a sheriff until 2028. That's when Corpus's term is set to expire.
If the people don't want me to be the sheriff, then a recall should take place.
Outcomes aside, community members are hoping to see change to prevent similar situations from happening again.
This addresses a short-term problem, but systematic issues require systematic changes.
If voters approve Measure A, it will still be quite some time before Sheriff could be out of her job. The County Elections Department will first have to certify the vote. Then the Board of Supervisors will have to present their case for removal to the public and also allow Corpus to share her side of the story before the public. 4 out of the county's 5 supervisors will have to sign off on a vote to kick her out of office ultimately. Dan, Amma.
So the thing that's dumb about this is that it's temporary, and they just did this because it was easier than getting the shit together for a recall, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it costs money and time and time is money to gather signatures that would be required to get it on the ballot. Then the signatures have to be certified, and once they're verified, then the Board of Supervisors has to vote to put the thing on the ballot. So it would have been a much longer process. We're probably looking at like an election in the summer or maybe the fall even, if normal circumstances play out. So that, yeah, it's a much more expedient way of making it happen. Because at that point, if you're at the end of this year and you're looking ahead, she's not really facing a much longer term in office anyway. So the notion of removing her becomes a little less pronounced, a little less immediate. And I think they worry that if it did take that long, right, that the public would just lose interest, because like she said, it's not as though, if things were going off the rails in San Mateo County, right, like this is the county that includes Menlo Park and Atherton and Belmont and all these really Hillsborough, all these really fancy Nancy places, right, with all the tech bros and the superstar athletes paying multi-million dollars for their homes, we would hear about it here on Downballot, right? We would hear the derp if shit was really popping off and crime was really going crazy up there. But it's not. And she's right. Like the community is relatively safe. And I think the soups and all the people that are aligned against her now would probably, worry that the people would forget and there wouldn't be the fervor and they may not be successful in that longer run. So this is their short-term both lead up and then short-term solution, because it again expires in a couple of years and it's really just meant to impact this sheriff.
Well, this is dumb.
Yes. You know what? The councilman has come full circle on this. I was perfectly willing to believe that this sheriff was off the rails and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. But you know what? She had a relationship. It's her private business, whatever. If there's no benefit to be gained from either of them from the relationship, then great, let them have it. If she's accused of being, attacking certain segments of her sheriffs and her deputies, I would think that would also merit more of a coalition than what we've seen, which is pretty much like labor unions and the sheriff's union, and some elected officials. I don't really see a broad base of community support. You don't see the NAACP coming out and saying this racist woman has to go. You don't see Equality California coming out and saying, hey, this homophobic woman has to go. So it seems like she might have a point that it is a political witch hunt, for lack of a better word. And I don't really like the term crucified, but that is sort of what's happening. They are taking her out to task in the court of public opinion. And it's starting to seem more and more like the situation in Alameda County with Pam Price, with Chesa Boudin up in San Francisco, the DA, that it's just folks just don't like the way they do their thing, and they were not their choice to be the sheriff or the thing, right? So now they're using every avenue they can to rectify that in their eyes, and it's just like the gentleman said, it's a slippery slope, and it leads to it could lead to bad consequences later. It sets bad precedent. So we'll see what happens. The vote is happening as we speak. We'll get some preliminary results even within the time of that we're sharing with you tonight. So we might be able to share some results later on in Down Ballot.
I think this is going to be like an extremely low turnout special election.
I would imagine it's what I didn't even realize it was today. So, and we've been covering the fucking thing. So it's March 4th, right? Like, who the hell votes on March 4th in an odd number year? Nobody. So, I don't imagine it's going to be very heavy turnout. So that probably means bad things for the sheriff, because generally it's the side that's fired up that, wins special elections. And unfortunately, I don't know that her defenders are the ones that are really chomping at the bit.
I mean, I'm talking like you and me could count the votes in 48 hours by ourselves, low turnout.
Possibly. San Mateo does a pretty good job. So their clerk and elections official does a decent job on the whole. They are elected, by the way, too. They elect their election official.
Oh,
how meta.
Very, very nice. So we're going to move on to Down Ballot / Recall Watch. Although are there any recalls here? Sort of. There's a recall adjacent story.
Exactly. So over in San Francisco, we had somewhat of a recall happen. So the new mayor has come in and is cracking heads and wants to set up his own sort of modus operandi. And part of that apparently has been lobbying against certain VP of the police commission, and it looks like dude got himself voted off the island, and there might be some repercussions, and we're going to find out from KPIX.
Tonight in San Francisco, where the city's Board of Supervisors voted to remove one of the people at the top of the city's police commission. Now, the commission crafts policy for police officers and oversees discipline of officers. Max Carter Oberstone was appointed to the commission by former Mayor London Breed. He was more than 3 years into a 4-year term, and he says he hasn't done anything that would justify him being kicked off the job. And on his way out, he had some scathing words for the new mayor and city leadership. Our Kelsey Thorne breaks down the board's decision to remove him and the public's response.
San Francisco Police Commission Vice President Max Carter Oberstone is now officially out of the job. On Tuesday, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors voted to remove Carter Oberstone from the commission at the request of Mayor Daniel Lurie.
Everything I've done on this commission is for my son, Everett, with the hope that one day he might grow up in a better, safer, and freer San Francisco.
Carter Oberstone spoke at length to the board before his ouster, highlighting a childhood of adversity that led to a career of public service, saying his job on the commission was a great honor and one he took very seriously.
I have cast every vote knowing that my first and only obligation is to the people of San Francisco, not to any politician or political cause.
That's probably what Daniel Lurie's problem is he doesn't think you're going to be loyal.
Supporters and detractors of Carter Oberstone filled the room, lining up for public comment to express their thoughts on his removal.
Please give this young man a chance. He has done great things, and there's no misconduct from him.
Is Mayor Lurie saying he doesn't want an independent commission to ensure checks and balances?
Probably.
And we agree with Mayor Lurie that we need a commissioner that is for collaboration and communication.
We reached out to Mayor Lurie's office for
when people say shit like that, right? It means that that means that the fucking person they're talking about didn't show up at their house specifically.
on Carter Oberstone's removal. His office did not directly respond to Carter Oberstone's removal, instead focusing on the vote to confirm Wilson Lung as his replacement, saying in part, quote, "Throughout the government, we are appointing leaders who will work with fellow commissioners and departments to deliver better services for our city. And Wilson's decades of work in compliance and oversight will make him an asset as we work together to protect San Franciscans."
So he just wants to put his homie in.
Oh, for sure. But this all sounds very familiar, right? Just, we need government to be more efficient and responsive. And, this guy is just getting in the way of progress, when in fact, he's just not really down with the mayor's agenda, right? Obviously. And they're obfuscating and kicking the can and whatever, playing hide the ball. And they're doing the mayor's office is doing this in a variety of ways, not just on this issue, but with media in general. They are picking and choosing their battles. They are picking and choosing their reporters. They are picking and choosing their stories and the stories that they want to tell, and not really engaging in sort of what true public engagement, public relations and communications. And really trying to curate and sort of cultivate an image and a narrative around the mayor, and Mayor Ed 210 as we're calling him, and it sticks simply because it fits, right? Like this is exactly what we would expect from a spoiled tech bro, wannabe white savior coming in to fix the city that really isn't broken. It's just a fucking city, right? Like with problems and fleas and baggage, just like any other city.
The problem with San Francisco, and it's been this way forever, it's just boom and bust, right? San Francisco, the story of San Francisco is boom and bust going back to the gold rush.
Correct.
And it's never not been boom and bust. Like for a long time, it was like a manufacturing center. They're like the South of Market area where all the dance clubs are. Well, those big rooms didn't just pop up there to become dance clubs, right? That was manufacturing. That was industry. And that went bust, and now it's the entertainment district. And so then we had two tech booms, and we had two tech booms, and then we had the real estate crisis, and San Francisco's riding this wave, and it got hit the hardest in the first tech bust. And I think San Francisco's, unfortunately, when the AI thing goes, San Francisco's going to take a fucking giant hit on that shit too. And it's not really, it has nothing, there's nothing anyone can do about it. It's just the way it is. It always has been. I don't know why. I think it's because LA, their thing is entertainment. That's that's a big Hollywood. Hollywood doesn't go boom and bust so much. In fact, the cycle might be opposite. People seek out more entertainment when times are bad and stuff. So,
you know what? In every city, every major metropolitan area now, because we're really not just cities anymore, we really are more, regions. Bay Area, Los Angeles, New York, whatever. They all have their own challenges that are unique to their industry and the industries that define them or have defined them in the past and will define them in the future. And you're right. Like the Bay Area, lives and dies right now with rises and falls. Let's say lives and dies, rises and falls with tech and with what's going on in that space, right? And now it's AI, like you said, and what happens when that sort of bubble bursts eventually, right? But every city deals with it. LA is dealing with it too, and the entertainment industry is dealing with it. There's a reason why the state is having to implement so many tax incentives for filming in California, because filming is just cheaper elsewhere. So the industry is actually leaving and moving and becoming more spread out and not so concentrated. So LA's got its own challenges too. And San Jose's kind of been always caught in the middle, where we're impacted by the tech industry, but we're also kind of a bedroom community, and we don't really have our own industry at least we haven't in a long time. It was canneries and fruit and orchards, right? The Valley of Heart's Delight. But we haven't really evolved into this new world. We're kind of like this, adolescent city down here, right? So we're dealing with our own problems as well. So every city deals with them, and unfortunately, when certain narratives are more prevalent, it allows people like Daniel Lurie and Matt Mahan and others to ascend into ranks that they may not have ascended to previously, simply because the narrative that they're pitching and that the private sector seems to just be obsessed with about making government run more efficiently like a business, right? It's just more palatable to voters at the time.
And it seems like, and it might be this like Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel thing where it almost seems like in some of the cities, people are running more like not running so much as a public servant, but almost like as a fucking philosopher king or something. And it's really, really odd.
Yeah, it's cultish in a way. The revolution of common sense. I forget what Larry's campaign motto was, right? But this, you're right. It is very much a cult of personality in a way too, right? Only I can solve it. It's almost Trumpian. It really is. Maybe not on that level, and maybe not with the malicious intent to just dismantle government.
This is what am I going to call this? We're going to, how that movement called effective altruism. That's what these people think they're doing, right? But it's not altruistic to run for mayor. It's ambitious.
Well, and is it worse, right? Is it worse to like have these sort of altruistic, delusions of grandeur, and really not getting anywhere close to achieving what you think you're trying to achieve? Or would it be just better to have someone who's out and out like Trump, right? Like just right in your face, like this is exactly who I am. This is what I'm doing, and please try to stop me, right? In a way, I almost hate this more because this is just more insidious, where it's all about subtext and it's about what's happening behind the scenes and not what's being presented to the public, right? And the narratives that aren't being told. And that to me is more disgusting in some ways than to someone coming out and out being a fascist. Because at least then you can point to it and say, look, it looks like it smells like it quacks like a duck, right? It is a duck. Whereas here, you start doing that, and the more that you protest, like this commissioner, the more that you push back, you become a target, right? Because there are a lot of people that support this mayor, and there's a lot of people out there. He's got a lot of political clout right now. Even if he doesn't have a mandate, he has clout. And so it's tough to fight back and to push back in that kind of situation, because you end up angering friends on your own side. Because there's folks who say, oh, Matt Mahan and Daniel Leary, they're such progressive champions, when in fact it's anything but they've projected that image and people have bought into it, and it's hard to push back on it.
It just seems like, and this isn't like the first time, right? We've had people trying to run for office over the years that were business people, right? Like even to an extent, Ross Perot. That was what Ross Perot was selling. He was selling like a I guess, I don't know, Ross Perot. That was an interesting character. But he was selling the I know how to do this because I ran a business, and it's like, well, right. But you're not talking about like serving the public. You're just talking about how you're like some kind of fucking boy genius. Right.
And this is something that I figured I've been talking about for a while. If anyone had listened, that this was going to be a successful narrative sooner or later. I felt like this outsider business perspective, outsider insider knows just enough about how things work to sell it and can tap into that mentality out there that government doesn't know what the hell it's doing. I figured this would be a successful narrative sooner or later, and it's coming to pass now in a pretty massive way. Nationwide, locally. Can't wait to see who's going to be governor next.
Oh God.
Right. Anyway, well,
there's not a great pool for the next governor.
Not terribly. We may be to be honest, it depends what happens. We may be looking at Governor Harris, but we'll find out. We'll find out soon enough. But in Oakland, they're looking at who's going to be their next mayor. How about that for a segue? And they had their first candidate forum just recently. We're going to find out a little bit more about the folks who are vying to replace Sheng Tao.
It is easy to talk about your problems, and in the case of the city of
yes,
Oakland, there have been a lot of people quick to share what they feel.
What is with the KPIX music? Do you hear this?
They're very intense. They're very intense at KPIX.
It is easy to talk about your problems, and in the case of the city of Oakland, there have been a lot of people quick to share what they feel like is not working. Crime and a mismanaged budget, to name a few big ones. But what seems to be harder is coming up with actual solutions. And as Oaklanders look to choose their next mayor, they're going to have to decide who has the best plan to take the city into the future. Andrea Nakano was at a town hall tonight as some of the people hoping to win over voters shared their vision.
With Mr. Shine. Well, I'll start with the fact.
Lisa Orta and Siggy Arnejo have called Oakland home for decades. Orta is a former high school teacher and has seen her city go through its challenges.
In my experience in the town, it's been a bumpy ride.
The recent stop on the bumpy ride has brought about concerns for public safety and how the city is going to fund essential services. For these two, the choice is really between two candidates.
I want to know if they've got solid plans for my city that I think is really hurting and needs some strong leadership.
It's just a mess right now. We need somebody that's going to be, kind of people.
The candidates at the forum addressed issues from public safety to homelessness.
And I've been so proud to be able to have brought in billions of dollars for housing, for public safety, for infrastructure. But I also know that Oakland now is at a crossroads and we need experienced leadership to guide us forward.
And there were even verbal jabs thrown from the start.
It is time that we stand up against the special interests that supported former Mayor Shane Tao, the same ones that recruited our Congresswoman Lee to run.
Ooh.
Because Oakland needs that will make the firm decisions that are hard and necessary.
I love this other lady right here. Oh, you went there.
All the candidates plan to move the city forward with a $129 million budget deficit this year. Orta knows it's going to be tough, but she has hope that the town will turn things around.
What we have left in Oakland is a lot of strength of character, a lot of creativity, a lot of innovation, a lot of potential. And I just haven't seen the strong leadership that we need.
So I don't know. I've been here since maybe just the middle of December, which isn't very long. I guess it's just now March 4th. I don't know what the fuck these people are talking. I mean, I know the budget is like a mess, right? That there's a budget disaster, but I don't know what the fuck these people are talking about as far as like the cultural decay or whatever. I know there's like a lot of homeless people, but are more homeless people per capita in Oakland than San Jose? I don't think so. Not from what I'm seeing.
Is it a doom loop situation? Do you feel like it's just a false narrative?
I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. I've lived here for fucking 3 months, but like, I don't know. This is like I don't know.
You're a native.
I just feel like the energy that, like when I'm out and about and just fucking talking to people and like I shouldn't say, we call it highway and then the number name of the street I live on, right? Or interstate. These are just people walking past our building all the time because it's like just in the middle of a bunch of stuff. So people on foot are always walking past, and everybody that walks by is just fucking so nice. They're like, oh, hey. Sometimes they're like, oh, you got a smoke? Here, you want $1? And I'm like, I shouldn't even smoke. Here, you can have a cigarette. They're like, oh, thanks, man. You got a light? Like, here, you want some weed? I'm like, no, I got some weed. That's a fucking weird way to judge a city, but maybe it's not the weirdest way to judge a city. Like what you actually see on your street and in your community, and like how you see like people treating each other, like generally is like a fucking, I don't know. I just don't think that doesn't like play out in the news. And not just here when I'm downtown, everybody's like sup. Oakland's just a very like sup kind of place, you know. I almost feel rude not saying hello when I walk past people like on the street here. It's weird.
Yeah, I think that it's strange. It seems like folks have figured out now how if they want to get something done, if they have an agenda, if they want to sell an agenda, they want to move something forward. They've realized now that the media and, whether it's online, it's on TV, it's in the print, all the media, traditional and otherwise, is incredibly important in setting their narrative, right? And they've learned how over the years to manipulate the media. And right now, especially because the media is so susceptible to these sort of alt narratives, right? Or just sort of, they don't really invest the time in doing journalism like we've talked about before, right? How they get the story from one source and they just roll with that. They roll with that narrative, that angle, right? They don't do journalism where they do the research, they look at all the different angles and they figure out, okay, what's the objective look at this situation? They take the subjective and they amplify the subjective. So folks who, if you have an agenda, They are leveraging the media to amplify their agenda. But you're right, it's not reflective of what's actually happening at ground level, right? What's actually happening in the community, what people are actually saying, but it impacts them, right? It has impacts. It has political impacts. It has electoral impacts, and electoral elections have consequences, right, for everyone. So it's unfortunate that that's the case, that there's that disconnect. But again, it's not unique to Oakland, but it's certainly happening in Oakland quite a bit right now, where there's this mentality that Oakland is like falling into the ocean or into the bay, and it's just not. You're right, it's not the reality. There are certainly fiscal challenges, like every city's facing, but it's not. It's not a situation like the city's falling apart at the seams.
And I'm not gonna like make believe here, right? I live in the foothills, right?
You bougie bastard.
Yo, my local grocery store, the first word of the name is farmer. All right. Like
legit.
And there's two of them within cycling distance of me. Like I'm not pretending that I like live in the hood and shit. Like I don't want to give the wrong impression, but I'm down over by, there's like Jack London Square, and then there's like a ring around it, right? Of like where there's like a few nightclubs and some businesses, and everybody's like, that's this, like they're like, oh, I don't know, that's a really rough place that you're fucking throwing your show. And I show up there, and it's just like, no, the problem here is no foot traffic. It isn't that this is a rough neighborhood or nothing's fucking going on here. It's like right next to the freeway, and like there's. The problem here ain't like that you're scared. It's like you can hear the fucking crickets as loud as the freeway. It's not because of crime.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, man. I feel like it's just like really easy to do this. Basically, I feel like it's easier to do this to San Francisco and Oakland because the buildings are older. I'm not kidding. Everything looks older. It's easier to paint it as like a dilapidated city because the buildings, the infrastructure, these are older cities. They were built up way before San Jose. They were built up.
Sure. Yeah.
Like the building I live in is over 100 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we have a 100-year-old building somewhere in San Jose. I'll find it.
That's what I'm saying. There aren't 100-year-old apartment buildings in San Jose.
There are, well, they actually are, but that being said, on the whole, right? Our San Jose is just new, looks newer, clean, and more cleaner, whatever, modern in that way, just because it's only being built out now, right? Actually, in my neighborhood, we have a couple neighborhoods here near me. The tracks are now getting to be about 100 years old, 1920s tracks. So, hey. Times are changing, but
in some ways, San Francisco, some of those 100-year-old buildings too, they're like old Victorian houses, and people think they look beautiful, right? But that's because they're on a hill. Like it's just all perception. I mean,
completely.
There's just there's no way around that. Like, and I'm not gonna again, the area over by the Coliseum. They need to. They need to do something over there, but it isn't that there's fucking, I don't think it's that. I think that the problem over there is that there's nothing there.
It's an industrial zone. That's not the problem necessarily. It's just that it's an industrial zone, and that's what you get in an industrial zone. You get blighted, dilapidated looks, right? Like that's just what it is, right? And
especially when there's no industry.
Right, manufacturing is going away, right? So industry is gone, and so we're changing. So there's nothing there, right? It's been abandoned, right? That area, and it needs to be revitalized. There needs to be some changes. There needs to be some rezoning and some upzoning and some investment to happen there. But again, shit that's happening in every fucking city. Even San Jose has that kind of problem, right? With industrial zones that are no longer necessary.
Yeah.
So,
and
that's where for a while, most of the time they were concentrating all the weed dispensaries, right? Because they're like, oh, well, you guys can operate over there in the shady area where nothing's going on, and we'll get some tax benefit out of it, right?
Going on like in my last business, every time we rented a space, it was in that area.
Next door to a dispensary.
Yeah, but not for no other reason than that's where the kinds of spaces we needed were. Like
right.
And if there were like closer to downtown or even on the west side, if there were like warehouse spaces with offices attached, they'd already been gentrified, and it was like $4 or $5 a fucking square foot to rent them. because it was like right by the right by Fruitdale and fucking what's the next one? Park, like over that in that area, Parkmore, Fruitdale, like off the Southwest Expressway over. If you're headed towards downtown, off to the left is like an industrial area. But they've given most of those buildings a facelift.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you're right. In the long story short, Oakland and San Francisco have history, right? They have baggage already, and it's being used and leveraged to create this mentality that's just not really. It doesn't reflect reality, and I truly hope that we can push back on this narrative and really, because you know what it is. You know what the tragedy is, Producer Dave, is that it takes it's this sort of back and forth, right? London Breed has her policies and her agenda to save San Francisco. Oh, but Daniel, it's not working after 2 years or whatever. So Daniel Lurie's got a better idea. He's going to come in after 4 years or whatever, and he's going to save San Francisco, right? And when he can't do it, someone comes next, right? And it's this back and forth and push and pull. And no one's addressing the systemic problems, right? The things that are really creating issues that real people are feeling and real people are hurting from, and that are helping to inform this narrative, right? No one's addressing those things. We're just sort of cosmetically like, I'm going to crack down. I'm going to, arrest all the drug dealers. I'm going to, move all the homeless folks out. Right?
We're going to arrest all the drug dealers depending on what neighborhood they live in.
Sure, right. And we're going to kick all the homeless people out and send them home. We're going to talk about that in a second, right? So they're all just doing these sort of, rearranging the deck chairs, and meanwhile the Titanic is sinking, right? So let's look at more root causes and see what we can do to
what if San Francisco doesn't need saving and it's just going through,
some shit?
Yeah. What if it doesn't need saving?
Needs therapy. Needs therapy. San Francisco needs therapy. That's what
I'm saying. Like, what if instead of this, oh no, everything seemed, we were telling ourselves a lie in the early 2010s about San Francisco being this booming, millennial paradise. Well, no, the fucking city looked exactly the same. The Tenderloin still smelled like piss. Like the Castro was still too expensive for anybody to live in.
Cycles.
South of Market was still loud. There was still sex workers in South of Market. Like the city was the fucking same. It's the same fucking place. It's San Francisco's been the same fucking place for fucking since the 90s.
Yep. And you're right. It cycles. So we'll see what comes next. We will see what comes next because Downballot will be here, no doubt.
As long as they don't outlaw Downballot.
Well, maybe on YouTube, but everywhere else.
We're doing okay so far, friend. Our YouTube channel's even monetized, if you could imagine that.
Ooh, fabulous! When does my royalty check show up? By the way, I keep waiting, but anyway,
what you would get is a bill.
Oh, okay. That's
okay. You already contribute.
Well, I contribute. So yeah, I guess I could contribute. Less maybe. Anyway. All right. Well, we do have to move on because we have so many things to cover tonight, and we do have one more story on Recall Watch, and it's actually sort of recall redo. But as everyone knows, Downballot is the 9th best local news podcast in California, according to some dude. But now we have another challenger, and it's actually one of the subjects of our coverage. So we're going to learn more about that from ABC 7.
Called Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price is gearing up to enter a new phase in her professional life. Today, ABC 7 News reporter Luz Pena sat down with Price, who says she's ready to set the record straight with a direct line to Alameda County residents.
From Alameda County District Attorney to podcast host.
Check out Pamela Price Unfiltered. I'm Pamela Price, your host, and that's where we get to correct the record.
This is Price's new venture, just 3 months after being recalled by voters.
Folks urged me to be part of the community and have a voice again.
I think it's really interesting how you just said to have a voice again. Yes. And the name of your podcast is Pamela Price Unfiltered. Yes. So what have you been...
Oh my God, no. We're fucking 3 months away from her fucking freaking out about the woke agenda. No.
Things that I could not talk about while I was in the district attorney's office. I have a lot of opinions, have a lot of information about things that we weren't able to share. When you're in that kind of a position, there are so many things that the public doesn't know.
We sat down with Price to have an unfiltered conversation about her take on becoming the first African-American woman to hold the county's top prosecutor job and then getting voted out.
What are some of your regrets?
That the voters decided to end my term prematurely. You know, the way that government works, it takes time. And so we were not given enough time really to roll out all the things that we wanted to do. I wanted to do a lot more training with the lawyers. I think that they do need training on a lot of issues. I think that I wanted to fully finish setting up the Public Accountability Unit.
Price wanted to reform the county's justice system and was known for pursuing alternatives to mass incarceration, something she still believes in.
Do you think those progressive values, those progressive policies are now something that people in this county don't want?
I think that people want progressive policies because progressive policies are about public safety. I think people want a DA that cares about gun violence.
As to her new path, she is planning to put out a new episode each week.
I'm grateful to the people of Alameda County, and I owe them a great deal for my success, and I want to share with them the things that I've learned along the journey.
In Oakland, Luz Peña, ABC7 News.
Well, I've already subscribed, so... Are you on that? You on for that? You down for that? No.
I just hope she doesn't end up on the intellectual Dollar Tree in 3 months.
Well, I guess unfortunately this just means one more thing we have to check for the docket in case she says anything interesting. But I'll be sure to check the latest episodes. We'll see how long that lasts. I get the sense that's not going to be too long of a run for that show. But who knows? It could take off.
So I don't like the name. The name sounds like super like generic and almost like focus grouped. But I was impressed that she had the right kind of microphone and it was pointed right at her face and it was in the frame just like like somebody taught her how to use. I mean, fucking, she's spent her life doing public speaking, but it's still like sitting down in front of I don't know, whoever helped her set up. Fuck, maybe I'm selling her short. Maybe she set it all up herself. Run Linux, former DA Price, run Linux.
No, I'm sure she had aides and consultants to assist. So, well, good luck to former DA Price. Welcome to the Pottern family. We welcome you with open arms. And if you need any advice, we're here. Producer Dave is here. And if you need a guest, we would love to hop on. If you want a guest on our show, we would love to have you. Because I'm sure we get into some spicy shit.
Look at us clout chasing already. We're like, oh shit.
We want to be that 8th best podcast in California. Come on. All right. Well, that was Recall Down Ballot Watch for this week. We got very deep this week. Thank you so much for that, Producer Dave. I really love our conversations around these local issues because I think it gets at something that impacts everyone. All derp is local, and local politics impacts everyone.
I can't believe the Orwellian title of this next story here in Winners and Losers.
Yes, the reunification program. As we move into winners and losers, is where there are no winners. As normal, war is peace. We're going to learn more about a program that Mayor Ed 209 down here in San Jose is implementing to mimic programs from San Francisco's past, but also New York and other cities who have tried it to basically say homeless people go home and not here.
South Bay reporter Jesse Gary live for us at City Hall to bring us details.
Cool, Jesse.
Gotcha, Andre. In less than a half an hour.
If I saw him, I'd think he was a Fed.
Right, Jesse Gary.
I'd be like, fuck, man. I'm being tailed. I think it's the FBI. And they'd be like, no, dude, that's the fucking local news. That looks straight out of the X-Files, dude.
I've got a question for you, sir. He reaches into his trench coat.
Matt Mahan, city staffers, and various nonprofit leaders will come here and hold a news conference just behind me at City Hall. They're going to unveil Mahan's next phase of his plan in the era of homeless living in San Jose. For years, San Jose's landscape has been accentuated by encampments of unhoused residents living near waterways, on streets, and in RVs. Tuesday, Mayor Matt Mahan and others unveiling the next step to change the landscape with Homeward Bound. Officials call it a reunification program for some of the roughly 6,000 people living without shelter.
The leading contributor to being unhoused and homelessness is a lack of affordable housing. It's not mental illness and it's not a substance use.
The mayor has created a
Yeah. The car she's right. They always have the car going the wrong way, right? It's the lack of affordable housing, the lack of a house. Now you're you're constantly living in a state of anxiety, and you may end up self-medicating as a result of that, which is totally fucking understandable. If I didn't know where I could sleep for like a month, what do you think my mental state would be like?
Not very good. And I'd be wanting all sorts of good drugs and alcohol too, just to make sure that I could make it through the night and sleep.
Approach to attacking homelessness, including more shelter space, short and long-term housing, and safe parking spaces. Supporters see this latest addition as a possible success.
So we have to start somewhere and get folks on the on-ramp to the ladder of housing success.
New Haven.
So, the chirons here unfortunately got completely mixed up. The last gal was from the New Haven Institute. This is Irene Smith, who's running for District 3, as evidenced by the map behind her.
Yeah, and if you look at the title, it says community, like with an
community. Yeah, it got cut off there. Communities, I think plural.
YouTube titles are 200 characters. That might just be a limit.
Yeah, I think they got cut off.
Just start with housing.
Homeward Bound will help the unhoused find permanent housing by reconnecting them with family and loved ones. Train and bus tickets will be provided so they can return to their home communities.
The tricky part is that making sure not only does the unhoused person want to go back, but also that the family would be willing to have them come back.
Mahan's effort is based on San Francisco's program of the same name, which started in 2005. Last year, officials there expanded their Homeward Bound, paying up to $400 to return unhoused individuals to their starting point. Investing in long-term housing would have been much costlier.
A bus ticket would help get them to that next level of stability that leads to future housing.
No, lady, you just want them to get the bus ticket so they can get to somewhere else.
Yes, go away.
It's not the end-all solution.
Advocates for the unhoused say the plan seems sound on its surface, but implementation is difficult.
The reality is you're just moving people down the road or somewhere else because it's not your problem anymore.
Oh, Scott.
It's been tried.
Yeah, every time I see this guy, I'm like, fuck, I love this guy.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Didn't take the offer because there's a reason why they're not with their families, right?
I don't think it works for everyone. I think we have to be very careful about the program.
Mahan is hopeful that his program will have the same level of success that's been seen up in San Francisco, but as we all know, the devil is in the details, and there will be more details coming out at the news conference that starts in less than 30 minutes. KTVU's Tori Gaines will have that part of the story this afternoon for you. For now, we're live at San Jose City Hall. Jesse Gary, KTVU, Fox 2 News. We'll head back to you.
So our plan is like the bare minimum of outreach, being like, hey, you got family that could take you in. You'd think that like once you interact with like social services, if you're on the street, that might be like the fucking obvious first question someone would ask you.
Yeah, and this, whatever you think about the reunification policy, facts are facts, and studies, census research shows that in general, and specifically in Santa Clara County and San Jose, anywhere from 75% to upwards of 90% of people who are experiencing homelessness right now, their last address was in the jurisdiction, the area where they are currently homeless.
Oh, well,
right?
that's good. They can just get them a Clipper card to go home then.
Right. They can go right home, right? So this is part, so it does impact a not insignificant portion of the unhoused population. There are folks here who did live somewhere else and are now here. But this solution is part of a narrative, a false narrative that, San Jose, Santa Clara County, the Bay Area are generally like favorable to being unhoused, right? This is a place where you can go and get free handouts and you can somehow have a better life as an unhoused person than you would in some other area and be unhoused.
It's basically the beach bum narrative, right? That it's
correct.
It's the weather.
Correct.
That more applies to LA, right? It's like, oh, the weather's really great in LA, so that's why all the homeless come here. That's what fucking right to say, and that's just not. That was never true of LA either.
It's not true at all, and it belies this idea that on people who are unhoused, who are already experiencing that level of trauma in their lives, have the agency to be able to move, right, and to go somewhere else, and to get somewhere else to live. These people are still living. Let's not forget, they are unhoused. They are still living somewhere, right? They have their pets, their families, their lives, their possessions. It's not as though they are just suddenly destitute with nothing at all connecting them to the world, right? And yes, their families may not want them, may not necessarily be ready to, not want them, but may not be ready to accept, to take them back, to support them, to house them. Maybe they left a situation that was untenable, that was, they were not able to live in, right?
A non-insignificant number of the women who have nowhere to stay, or they left because of domestic violence.
Correct. Correct.
Either from an intimate partner or sometimes even from their fucking father.
Correct. And this all sounds good, right? This is sounds like an episode of NCIS, right? Where it's we'll just send them back to their family, and their parents welcome them back with open arms, and everyone's happy at the end of the day. And maybe that happens in one circumstance, but we're talking about thousands of people. And
this operates under the assumption that even if people's families do want to bring them back in, that they have the financial wherewithal, the space, just those two alone, even just the second one, that they have a room for Uncle Jerry or whoever. Oh, we'd love to help Uncle Jerry, but we can barely fucking feed and house ourselves. So many people who aren't homeless are on the edge, and so they don't have the means by which to support a family member who is in this circumstance, even if they want to.
Correct. Yeah, and we can't assume it, but it makes everyone feel better. It gives them an opportunity to say, well, we're doing something about the problem, and the people that don't know any better just say, oh, look, they're doing something about the problem. So, because it makes sense, it makes good common sense. Send them back to their families.
But like I said at the first thing I said was, this is the bare minimum first thing. Once somebody encounters services, they should be hey, do you have a support network?
Yes.
Is there something? Is there someone we can call? Is there someone out there? And that's all that this is, right? Because then at that point, social services should be oh, we actually spoke with your aunt in, I don't know, fucking Colorado, right?
Yeah.
And your aunt actually has an extra room, and she says it's going to be real tough, but that if you're willing to work on it, she's willing to take you. Fucking, this should be the first thing they try to do as soon as somebody encounters social services in this circumstance.
Well, the sad thing is that it is, right? It is part of the intake process. It's part of the service process. It's part of the case management process, right? It's a question that everyone gets asked. Do you have...
It's and I don't mean to...
Where are you from? Where can you go?
I don't want what I'm going to say here to be taken the wrong way, but it's when you find a lost puppy and you check the tag. Do you live somewhere, puppy? Right? I don't want to... I'm glad we're not popular enough that gets clipped out and fucking used against me, because it's kind of... there's a way in which that could be... But what I'm saying is, it's is there somewhere you can go? Why? Of course that's
No, they absolutely, caseworkers, absolutely. It's part of the intake questionnaire. Absolutely. It's one of the first questions they ask. Do you have family? Where are you from? Do you have anywhere you can go? Right. Because a lot of the times folks who are unhoused also are dealing with a lot of shame, a lot of stigma, a lot of self-shame, right? And they don't even, feel comfortable asking for help, right, from their own family. So yeah, absolutely. One of the first questions they get asked is, do you have family? Do you have anywhere you can go? Do you have people who can support you? Because at the end of the day, it's much cheaper and much more efficient to keep people housed in the first place than to let them be unhoused, than to allow them to become unhoused, right? So the more we can keep people,
you get a good caseworker,
supported.
Maybe you tell them, you're hey, I lived with this uncle, this aunt, and I lived with my parents, and I fucked up all of those situations, and here's how I did it. And then fuck, what am I talking about? Of course that happens. If you get people that are first contact for these people in what we call the system, those people aren't doing that shit to get rich. They're trying to help these people. So it's the obvious first question. Well, the obvious first question is would be things do you need medical attention? Do you need, can I get you a glass of water? Do you need something to eat? Right. But beyond that stuff, the obvious, it's so obvious. Matt Mahan's a visionary. He's you should ask him if they got a place they could go.
Oh man.
Galaxy brain.
Seriously, we do have to move on. We have a few more stories to cover here tonight. And we're getting deep into it tonight. But yeah, this is something it's worth discussing and worth calling out, because you're right, it is Orwellian, it's silly, and it just is another way of kicking the can and not really addressing the underlying issues.
Well, I don't know if you kick the can and then this is another bad. I'm not going to even do this one. Fuck it. I already said something that could.
Hey, whatever.
Let's stop with the
analogies. Are they going to ban us on YouTube? What could possibly happen?
No more problematic analogies, at least until public comment.
What could possibly? Hey, the president spoke to Congress tonight. You can't possibly do anything that would get much attention anyway. All right. Well, moving right along from Ed 209 back to Ed 210. Mayor Lurie wants to institute a new era of in San Francisco and get everyone back to work in the office, because he thinks it's going to be a game changer for everyone. So we're going to learn more about his plan to get San Francisco city workers to come back to the office from ABC7.
San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie says city workers need to be back in the office 4 days a week. The request first came in a memo we told you about last month, but now it's official. ABC7 News reporter Luz Pena is in the newsroom with the latest. Luz.
Yes, San Francisco's mayor hinted at this a month ago, but the memo went out.
Also, hold on. This they need to be back in the office. Does this motherfucker know that like a lot of the people that work for the city don't have an office job? These tech people are so that fucking motherfucker. What about the guy that fills the potholes? Do you want him in the office? No, he's supposed to be outside filling the potholes, you stupid motherfucker.
Yes.
What about like fucking public works? Like a lot of these are outside jobs.
Yes. Like very much so.
God, but it's just it's a fucking this tunnel vision that these fucking people have about like what a job is, that it happens in an office.
Well, especially a city or a government job.
The city's Department of Human Resources found 30% of city workers are going into the office just 3 days a week.
The subject line, in-person work. This is the official mandate for San Francisco city employees to go back to the office for a minimum of 4 days a week as soon as possible.
We are in a new era here in San Francisco, and we need people back to work to make sure that we're delivering great services to our taxpayers and to the residents of our city.
According to the city's Human Resources Department, 24,000 or 70% of city employees work in person 5 or more days a week. Mayor
or more?
Is now asking for the remaining employees to do the same. One of those impacted is a worker that wants to go by the name Megan. She moved 2 hours away from the city in 2020 to afford a home. She comes into the office 3 days a week.
Right now, we're just renting a room here in the city just for me to work on site during those 3 days. So I think it's very difficult for us to adjust right now.
Megan says she is highly productive at home and is concerned 4 days a week is a start to an ultimate push for a full-time in-person plan. What's your plan?
If the mayor insists that it will go through with the 4 days, then maybe 4 days, then it will transition to full-time 5 days. It's either we resign or we sell our house there and then rent full-time here.
At City Hall's ground floor, Quanisha Johnson, owner of Cafe Melange, a collective of Black-owned businesses in the Bayview, is looking forward to this change.
You're excited?
I'm excited. I don't think the people are, but I am.
This is not
well, I like her. At least she's like, well, it fucking sucks for them, but my restaurants aren't doing so good.
Like, give me that business.
But also, like, another thing is, okay, it's good for the restaurants, except now these people are having, instead of fucking sitting at home, and when they take their lunch, they like go make a cup of tea and a fucking sandwich out of the shit they bought from the grocery store. Even with the inflated price of groceries, they're spending a couple bucks on their lunch, and now they're in the city and they got to spend $15-20 if they're going to go like get a cup of coffee and a sandwich somewhere. Now you're just squeezing them. Now you're squeezing them on fucking God, provide lunch or something.
They're probably brown bagging it though, honestly. Like, I mean, folks, if you're working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, you're not eating out every day unless you're, just super young and not really thinking about it, right? Like you meal prep, you're figuring a way around this and just bringing your lunch anyway. So
what's crazy is, and right up until the end when things started to maybe not be so great. I had people, my people that worked for me were working 10, 11 hours a day. They were on commission. And they were doing it because they wanted to make more money. But that being the case, we went and got lunch. Like every day, we ordered lunch. They didn't order lunch. We did. You know what I'm saying? but fucking money was falling from the sky for us at that point. Like, and it was all pre-tax money too, right? Like you buy everybody lunch, that's all pre-tax money and stuff.
Yeah,
but,
it's different world. But like, government's not the same way. They're not going to.
No, I understand. I understand.
Paying for their lunches. Yeah.
Maximum there was 10 employees. I understand. It's a much different.
Right.
But I wonder, like, are there things that is there, like, on the flip side of that? Is there stuff the city can do? Like, is there a cafeteria in City Hall?
I mean, in fact, those businesses there that they were just highlighting, that they're in the ground floor. They're kind of like a part of a co-op at City Hall. There used to be spaces like that in government buildings, but now it's usually something like that where they have like a small business come in and offer the service, right? Within City Hall or within the government building. They could do that. But the interesting thing here is that it would belie their goal, right? Like the goal of doing this, the mayor said at least, is to spur, the economy, business, people spending their tax dollars and spending their sales tax dollars, coming to work and shopping and doing all the things around work, right? So by doing that, like by incentivizing or by offering, public resources to public employees to get the things that they're wanting them to go out and buy, it would negate the point, right? So it's a slippery slope.
What a stupid. Hey, things have been kind of tough, and we're you're here for the pension mostly. Actually, the pay ain't great, and also we'd like you to fuel the local economy.
Yeah, no, it's just another thing that sounds good. It's a talking point that sounds good to people who have no idea about, like you said, about what government service is and what government service jobs look like. And also, these are public employees; they don't have the money to go out and eat at Manny's every fucking day. Like they're gonna be brown bagging it. They're gonna bring the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and they're gonna love it because that's just the life that they've chosen, right? So they're not making big money where they can afford to eat out every day.
Hall issue, a weekly average of 43% of overall workers are back at downtown offices, according to city data, numbers that are putting San Francisco in last place behind other major cities like Austin, Los Angeles, New York, and San Jose. Are you hoping that the mayor's announcement is going to influence and motivate other companies to do the same, to ask their workers to come back?
Absolutely. I think all of us need to lead by example. I think that's a great precedent that he set.
The mayor's hoping his decision sends a strong message to the private sector.
We'll see that impact of having more people taking BART, taking Muni into downtown San Francisco.
Oh, they got to pay for that shit too.
Yep.
And the mayor's target date.
That's what he wants.
The date is April 28th. His office is now instructing the Department of Human Resources to take the necessary steps to make this plan official and contact the unions representing these workers. In the newsroom, Luz Peña, ABC 7 News.
All right, Luz, thank you very much.
Also, the dedication of that one gal to her job, essentially. She's like, hey, if they make me do this, we're probably going to have to sell our house and start renting in San Francisco. It seemed like it didn't even occur to her that wherever she lives 2 hours away, she might just be able to find a job there.
Right. There's city work everywhere, man. Public works and these kind of jobs, they're never going to go away. You always need people, no matter how much AI.
It just struck me that person probably loves their job. Right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. These folks, they absolutely love their jobs. You don't get into public service or nonprofit work if you don't really care about the mission and care about the work. So they're doing, because you're not making a lot of money and you get shit on and there's not a lot of, benefits at the end of the day compared to the private sector. And these are really smart people, really well-educated people that could do a lot better in the private sector. They do this work because they care and they really want to give back and help people improve their lives. So let's support them in some way and try to make it easier for them instead of harder for them to live.
This is also crazy because it acts like nobody lives in San Francisco, like that these businesses are just fucked. Yeah. Like if there aren't people coming from other places to work and spend money, get out of here.
Well, there's just other there's other economic issues at play here too, right? So, and it's not going to, the city workers shouldn't be the make or break for them. For those small businesses.
And I mean, a lot of people work for the city of San Francisco, but it's a drop in the bucket. Like as far as the commerce goes, I don't think that, I mean, the one gal who's works with that co-op, I think that's either in or right next to the city hall. Sure, they're going to see an increase, but it's,
of course,
you get a half a mile away from city hall and nobody's going to fucking notice anything.
Right. And don't To be fair, government is one of the larger employers out there in general. But yeah, you're right. It's not. This is not going to make having them back one more day a week at work is not going to make as much of an impact as folks might think, because people just find a way to make ends meet by any means necessary, whatever that is.
Man, that poor gal that's got a fucking 2-hour commute. Oh man, I don't know. She must really love her job, or maybe she likes driving. Who knows? It's
just whatever pencils out. Whatever pencils out at the end of the day. And maybe that doesn't mean they're not looking for a new job, right? Or not trying to find something better. But in the meantime, you got to keep what you got.
Right.
Bird in the hand.
So we're going to move up to Concord, which is some rent control shit. God, I hate the conversations about rent control.
Well, you're going to love this clip then. This is all conversations back and forth about rent control in this clip from ABC7 News. So the council is getting pressured to loosen their restrictions, and looks like they did, but not without a fight.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Dan Ashley.
And I'm Amma Dates. The cost of housing is one of our biggest challenges for building a better Bay Area. And one of Concord's solutions was rent control. Tonight, less than a year after the rules passed, city leaders loosened those restrictions, which could now lead to bigger rent hikes.
That's right. ABC 7 News reporter J.O. Stone explains what the city's decision means for renters and landlords.
I don't want to hear anything, though, or we're not going to continue this meeting. Insurance costs that people are starting to get hit with. No. Okay.
And for context, the state.
Excuse me, I'm trying to hear what he's saying. Could you please just, thank you.
Concord city officials responding to outbursts among this massive crowd Tuesday night. The meeting centered around whether to keep strict rent control measures in favor of tenants or loosen those measures in favor of owners, who have recently complained about the 3% max rent increase now in place.
A 3% increase is nothing.
We already have rent control in the state of California.
Oh, Josh.
And Concord should repeal its rent control ordinance.
Tenants fired back.
Right now, the housing crisis and escalating rents have been one of the big drivers of poverty in California.
Right now, it's super hard to find affordable housing or find available housing that's not super expensive.
Do not take away the rent control policy and just cost that we just have 10 months ago.
There was quite a bit of back and forth.
I was advocating for 5% because I heard from many of the property owners in this room.
With a maximum cap of 7%.
I would ask that you bring it down to no greater than 5%.
In the end, council voted to loosen the rent control restrictions from a 3 to 5% max increase while addressing single-family homes along with condos.
Just to repeat, so it is a flat 5% cap in terms of the rent increase, and anyone who owns 3 or more single-family homes / condos, the just cause for eviction provisions will still apply, but we will exempt those who own 2 or fewer.
Groups representing tenants then made it known how they felt about the increase.
Call a recess.
Shame on you.
In Concord, J.R. Stone, ABC 7 News.
Seriously, shame on you. 10-month-old ordinance. You couldn't hold, like someone in the chat said, you couldn't hold the line. You couldn't hold your dicks for 10 months before backing down to the fucking property owners. Like, you got to be kidding me. Way to go, Concord. Profiles in fucking courage.
So people who aren't from the Bay Area, Concord is like basically where people move when they can't afford Walnut Creek, if they like that area, right? Concord's a little cheaper.
Still in the BART line.
Still fucking more expensive than where I live in Oakland. Absolutely. And like, it's like Concord's a nice fucking place, but like this, okay. So 3%, sure. That's $30 on 1,000, right? But nobody's rents 1,000. So
no, yeah. And 3% is around, right. It's typical inflation, cost of living rate. That's fairly typical for what rent control is in most cities that have it. It's either tied to the inflation index or it's around 3 to 5-ish%. I think in San Jose it is 5%. And then landlords can bank up to, I think, 8% for any 1 year. But yeah, this is just another, backlash to good progressive policies that are trying to help people, and now we're getting the pushback from industry and Josh Howard and his apartment association housing providers saying, oh, well, playing the violin, like we're so impoverished, we're just making ends meet here, you're hurting mom and pop landlords with this policy. And really it's just one tool in the tool shed, in the toolkit that's trying to keep people from becoming homeless in the first place, like we mentioned earlier. So we either do the work on the front end to keep them housed, or you're spending tons of money and effort and time on the back end to get them back off the streets. And I would much rather keep people in their houses.
Yeah. And like so what happens? So there's like two ways of looking at this, right? What happens when there is rent control? Some people who advocate against rent control will be like, well, if you tell the landlords that that it's 3% max every year, they're just going to raise your rent every year. And I don't know if that's the case. There's rent control in Oakland where I live, and I was, talk to my neighbors, and one of my neighbors is like, I'm not even sure the guy that owns this building remembers that I'm here.
Yeah, raised my rent in many years. Yeah, and it doesn't remember, rent control doesn't apply to anything that was built before 1995, too, according to state law. So we're also talking about naturally affordable housing
before 1990.
Yes, correct. Yes, anything built before 1995 is not rent controllable according to state law.
So
Yes,
like
that's
almost all of the rental property.
Yes, remember the rent control law that was on the ballot back in November? That was to repeal that policy and allow it to apply to any properties. But yeah, no, it has to have been built. But after a certain law at the state level was passed, it cannot apply to anything built beyond that. So basically, most rent control applies to properties that are naturally affordable, like older properties that are going to rent for lower amounts anyway, but still, even at market rate, would be unaffordable. So it's just another means of preventing folks from getting out there in the first place.
I don't know. I just heard like one guy said 3, another person said 5, and I was like, oh shit, they're doing a reverse auction.
Yeah, right. All right, yeah, who's got 3? Who's got 3? Who's got 5? Who's got 5?
Or that's like an auction, actually. The reverse auction will be going down.
But it's just sad that this is a policy. It's only been in place for less than a year, and there's no way there's no one who could even come to them and say, there's no way you could say like, I have the data to prove that this doesn't work after 10 months. That's bullshit. There's no way you can possibly say it's working or not working after 10 months. So this is just reactionary politics at its best.
Yeah, I think like when I lived in Campbell, because I lived there for a long time, there's no rent control in Campbell. There's there's the state laws, right? But there's like a board that if you think the person jacked your rent up, you can go and the city will go, right? Mm-hmm. But for like that place I was at, when we first got there, rent was under $1,500 at that place. When we first got there, it was super cheap. Mm-hmm. And we were there for a while. And then one year the rent went up $400.
That's a lot. That's 20%. That's pretty, or 23%. That's a pretty steep chunk.
Yeah. I mean, it was fine because there was 3 of us there and we're not doing bad and the rent hadn't gone up in a while.
Still.
But now that I think about it, I probably should have gone before that fucking committee in Campbell and seen if they could have told them fucking no. But then the problem is when you go to sign your, like when your lease is up, right? You do stuff like that. Now your lease is up and they'll find any old fucking reason not to renew your lease. So like.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing that's part of this policy and part of a lot of rent control policies. This is a just cause evictions policy that it forces the landlord, if they're going to evict you, to have a cause,
it's like saying, well, we don't want to renew your lease. That's not an eviction.
No, that's not. If you're willing to pay and you're able to pay, and that's not just cause. You should be able to litigate that if they have a just cause eviction ordinance.
I mean, I don't know. I can't complain too much about that Campbell place. I think we signed a lease for the first year, and then I was there for 12 years and never signed another fucking piece of paper except for a fucking check for those goddamn people.
He forgot you were there. They forgot you were there. That's probably why we were allowed to just grow this beautiful network right under their noses.
It was because the neighbors knew what I was doing and thought it was cool, and they made their own share of noise, and I had a great relationship with the people that lived in that building. So.
Oh, for sure. 100%. Well,
I remember one time my boyfriend Rory at the time, like his keys weren't working. And so he was like at the door, fucking with the front door. And my neighbor called and said, hey, there's somebody at your front door. And I think I've seen him around, but he seems to be messing with your front door. I'm like, do you have my extra key? They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I think I just printed that key. I'm like, ask that person's name. If his name's Rory, can you just let him into the apartment?
See, it's that kind of community and camaraderie that we need in America these days. We'd be a lot better off.
All right. Well, now we're going to move on to I don't know where Oliveira Egg Ranch is, but
it's in San Jose.
Oh, well, fuck. This is fucked up. Now eggs are going to go up again.
Yes, we're going to. So eggs are at a premium, and it's not going to get any better for redeveloping egg ranches into housing.
New at 11, one less place to get your eggs. A popular San Jose ranch is closing after 76 years in business. NBC Bay Area's Marianne Favreau talked with the owner and customers of the Oliveira Egg Ranch about the decision and what's expected to replace the beloved business.
The Oliveira Egg Ranch opened back in 1949, and today loyal customers stop by to pick up their last eggs before they close at the end of March. For decades, customers have pulled up to this drive-through to buy farm.
Where is that? I don't recognize. Is that like
San Jose?
It's like east side, almost to the hills. Is that?
Yeah.
Is it on the other side of 280 on the east side?
Northeast of San Jose? Yeah, definitely. Other side.
Okay.
In East San Jose. On Saturday, dozens returned to say goodbye.
Kind of heartbroken to see it all kind of go, because it's the last bit of my childhood right here that I remember, so it's sad to see it go.
Shirley Reed says she's been coming here since she was a little girl.
It's live hens, fresh eggs. During Easter time, there's the little teeny weeny baby eggs.
Ed Oliveira first opened the ranch, and even as a toddler, his son Ed Jr. was involved.
I sat in that wire basket and I broke eggs. And I remember my father wanted to mop the floor with me. These are live chickens.
As a teen, Ed Oliveira Jr. built cages for the live hens sold at the ranch and later went on to run the business. But now he's closing the business on Sierra Road, March 31st.
Oh, Sierra Road. Yeah, that's like, yeah. I know because we used to drive up Sierra Road, goes up into the hills, and we used to drive to the top and look down on the city and smoke weed when I was a kid.
Correct. Oh, yeah. Didn't we all?
25 single-family homes. The reason?
Financial hardship and no heir to leave it to. The sensible thing to do.
Together, Ed and his wife, Anna, who he met when she was an employee at the ranch, have weathered the downs of a pandemic, price fluctuations, and staffing challenges.
We're getting off the roller coaster. It's time.
Ed says the ranch has never had to contend with avian flu. Now, as customers load up their last eggs.
Ooh, that taco truck probably does a hell of a business right next to that fucking. Oh, dude.
Breakfast burritos with eggs.
76-year-old admits he feels sad to say goodbye.
Oh.
I mean, I grew up in the business.
In San Jose, Marianne Favreau, NBC Bay Area News.
It sounds like because selling that to somebody or whatever, whoever you're going to sell that land to or whatever is going to redevelop it anyway.
Yeah, and it's already happening. So one way or the other, it was going to happen. The only downside is it's up on Sierra Road. It's going to be single family homes. It's not going to be affordable housing or anything like that, right? It's not going to be housing like this guy and his wife wouldn't be able to afford to live there more than likely if they didn't get this deal to buy out. So he's right. No heirs, nothing left keeping you around. Why not? Take advantage of the times.
And I mean, most people retire in their 60s. The dudes. It's time.
Dude needs. Yeah, it's time, bro. It's time.
I want to know. I don't. You know what? I don't. He seems like a nice old man, and I don't want to know the awful story of him meeting his much younger wife when she was his employee.
Yeah, we don't need to know about all that. We'll let that. We'll let that stay in the memoir in the history books. We'll find on the next a very special episode of Down Ballot
where we're like, you remember that nice old Eggman? Well, we have a story to tell you.
Anyway. Well, moving right along, real quick, wanted to do a quick hit on this because I'm not sure if it actually happened today. I don't know if you took public transit today, Producer Dave, but...
Well, I didn't hit San Jose.
Not in Santa Clara County, yeah. So our local transit agency here was faced with a potential strike by its workers. We're going to find out just really quickly what they're pissed about, and we'll find out next week on Down Ballot if they actually went into work today.
New this morning, the South Bay's transit workers may not show up to work today as their contracts ended overnight with no agreement with VTA. Today on the Bay's Chris Sanchez joining us live from San Jose this morning. And Chris, what type of impact could we see for those riders this morning?
Well, Mark, it's the message from VTA to commuters is make alternate plans because transit workers now have no contract with VTA. The contract ended overnight and they had not reached an agreement and they could not seem to come together to bridge a big pay gap. According to the Mercury News, among the asks, the union wants 24% in pay increases over 3 years. VTA's most recent offer was 9% over 3 years. The Amalgamated Transit Union represents about 1,500 bus and light rail operators and other workers. Members voted in favor of a strike, and the union got the green light from the South Bay Labor Council. So there may not be a strike today, but definitely a strike seems to be looming. In San Jose, Chris Sanchez, Today in the Bay.
So this stuff sucks too, because right, like these VTA workers are working class. Right.
Yeah.
And so these, the people who everybody drives in San Jose. The only people who don't drive in San Jose are people who can't afford a car, more or less. And so you're pitting now these people aren't poorly paid. A bus driver, sometimes some of them I was talking to one, even when I was there, might make $100,000 a year. Right. But if you want to live in San Jose and maybe buy a condo or something, your fucking partner better be making over $100,000 a year too, if you want to buy something. And so and these are professional jobs where you are responsible for the responsibilities are heavy. You're responsible for the safety of the people on the bus, on the train, pedestrians, other vehicle. It is people are like, oh, you're just driving around all day. It's like, no, the cognitive load of that job is very high. You are taking everyone's life into your hands as soon as you fucking
including your own, right? And the safety, not just of the driving and the movement, but also just the passengers, right? We've seen on this show, drivers and train operators attacked, right, by random folks. So yeah, it's not an easy job. It's not a terribly well paid job, although it's a good union job, and that's why we're hearing these stories, because the union is stepping up and saying, look, we want 22%, you want 9%. That ain't close, bro. You gotta meet us a little more in the middle. So we'll see what happens. And if anyone out there who says wants to hate on unions and bag on unions and say you're striking and you're hurting everyone else, well, thank you for the weekend. Thank you for the 9 to 5 workday. Thank you for no child labor. Right? Like unions have done a whole lot for working people in this country, and I think we need to respect that.
Not for nothing. I don't think they want to strike. I think the people, they understand that if they go on strike, that I don't get to work.
Yeah, they want to work. They want to do their job. These people have a high work ethic too. Like I've been on picket lines before with workers, and the last thing they want to be is out there waving a sign. They want to do their job, right? So let them do their job and pay them what they're worth.
But it's just crazy. Like when this happens, like the people, I'd say basically homeowners, people who can afford a house or old money that have a house and they have a driveway and a car and all that, they're not affected by it. So you're these things, stuff like this, it ends up in a situation where, if the agency wants to, they can message in such a way where you're pitting the working class against the working class.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine that's, I know they were when I was a kid and the teachers went on strike. I remember I was young and I didn't understand. And I remember my mom explaining to me, she's like, no, this ain't the teacher's fault. She's like, you think they don't want to be there? She's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I was like, oh, they have substitutes. My mom's like, no, we don't cross picket lines. You're not going to school. We do not cross the picket line.
Right. Yeah, but my mom's a teacher, so I was actually on those picket lines too. So you might have not crossed the picket lines that I was on.
I was in Fremont, but
you're right. Management will always demonize the employees when in these situations and try and pit groups against each other, right? Pit friends against each other, working class people against each other, and it works to varying degrees, and it doesn't work to varying degrees. But I think that at the end of the day, the workers do have the leverage, and the more that we realize that, and the more they realize that, the better their situations are going to become. So.
And I've seen in other cases, and this might be what VTA ends up doing. I've seen in other cases of transit strikes where you do your shift and then you hit the picket line.
Yeah, no, it's
because maybe
every strike is different.
And in this case, it's just, this is we've seen it in hospitals. We've seen it, where you do your shift And then immediately after your shift, you're out there in your scrubs right after your shift picketing because you're a nurse and you're like, well, I'm not going to not go to the emergency room.
Yeah, because most of the time, you're not just fighting for your own working conditions. You're fighting for your patients too. In those situations, you're fighting for your riders. You're fighting for the people that they're trying to pit against you, right? Unions are very smart about how they do these things. They're very targeted. They're very organized. They are organized labor for a reason. So yeah, they do their best to make sure that these things have minimal impacts on the people that they're trying to support and serve, right? While also protecting their workers and making sure that they get what they're looking for and get what they deserve.
I'm just telling you, like, everybody I've ever dealt with that had anything to do with VTA was just, anytime I've ever gotten on the bus driver's like, hey, hi. Like,
they're good people. They are good people. And they've had to deal with a lot of shit, especially in recent years. So hopefully they get what they're
and again, in a place like Santa Clara County where everybody drives, I knew people that worked at Cisco that lived a 5-minute walk from the Campbell light rail and drove their car to work every day. I'm like, what are you, fucking stupid? I'm late because
yes
I'm late.
No.
I'm late. We'd be all meeting for dinner on Campbell Avenue. Oh, fucking, fucking first world problems, I suppose. They'd text you, I'm running late because of traffic. I would just sometimes text back, be like, if you were using the light rail to get from work to downtown Campbell, there's no traffic on light rail. You would be here having a cocktail with me already.
Imagine that common sense, Bruce, Dave.
Anyway,
who wants to hear it?
We're going to move on to Get Your Pee Together. This is a story. People urinate in public in city. This is like dog bites man.
Yes, so it's quite a longer clip, and I know we are pushing up on public comment tonight, so I don't want to get too deep into it. But yeah, we'll see how long we can go on this clip and learn more about the pee situation in San Francisco and why public toilets are such a necessity, as we always talk about here on Downballot.
Across the Bay Area, you likely have seen or maybe smelled the impact of public urination.
In San Francisco, relieving oneself in public was banned in 2002.
The TL wouldn't be the TL if it didn't smell like piss.
As ABC7 Building a Better Bay Area reporter Leanne Melendez found out.
If I was going to a show at the Great American Music Hall and it didn't smell like piss, I'd be like, am I in the right place?
Right. Did I get off the BART at the right station?
And Leanne is here with a closer look. You get all the best
Not
stories.
that close, if you know what I mean. It was one of those assignments, you were going to say, right?
Yeah, one of the best.
Well, the people urinating at Portsmouth Square are not homeless. They are men, most of them playing cards when suddenly the need arises. Now, rather than use the bathrooms, clean bathrooms, by the way, inside the park, they choose to pee outside with apparently no regard for others who may be watching.
The stench in this section of Portsmouth Square is intolerable and offensive. Years of public urination have left their mark on this now corroded pole. When we looked below, we discovered the source of the foul smell. Men urinating in a barren space of the park home to dozens of rat burrows. This is not a designated pissoir, those French public outdoor bathrooms.
Well, we need those. Oh my God. I mean, it's male centric, but we need those because then the limited public bathrooms that are available, then there's the women who might have to wait in line less to use them.
Has bathrooms opened to the public only a few feet away and maintained by recreation and park crews. There is no semblance of privacy here or shame. There is so much accumulated urine that on one corner, there is moss growing on the top. The San Francisco Health Department would not tell us
moss grows on water.
Presented a health issue for the community because they say they've never received a single complaint. The question that comes to mind is, what in the heck is going on here, and how is this even allowed? Danny Sauter is the new supervisor for District 3, which represents Chinatown.
So what can we do to stop it?
Yeah, I think there's two things. I think we actually have to look at making sure that our existing facilities, our restrooms, are in good shape, that they're not closed, that people know where they are with signage and with good lighting. And then on the other side, if people are doing this, the park rangers need to make sure that they stop that, whether it's a verbal warning at first or maybe even up to a citation.
San Francisco banned public urination in 2002. At the time, Supervisor Tony Hall said the vote by the board, quote, demonstrated we live in a civilized society. Anyone violating the ban can be fined between $50 and $500. We asked police if they have ever cited anyone here or anywhere in San Francisco. Police told us at this time they don't have this data compiled. Portsmouth Square is run by Rec and Park. That department issued a statement reminding us that the square has, quote, some of the best maintained and most heavily used restrooms in our entire park system. So why pee outside?
So we're going to try to ask this individual.
This is why the clip was on the docket.
Of course it's her.
Oh, Leanne Mendez for sure. The guy who took like the driverless car and she does all the things. Like I gotta test this out. I gotta ask this person. We're gonna wait until he's done pissing, but we're gonna ask him what's going on.
Oh man, just walk up right behind him and maybe he turns around and pisses on you. You've startled him.
Well, someone in chat asked like really legit question: who filmed all these people whipping their dongs out and pissing? Like this. I understand that they're doing it in public, but that's kind of well, crossing the line a bit, I'd say.
Maybe it was stock footage. Maybe it was B-roll. A P-roll.
P-roll. Oh, goodness. Okay, water.
Urinating in public.
We waited until he was done with...
Oh, well, good.
Excuse me, sir. Hi. We're with ABC News. My name is Leanne Melendez. I wanted to ask you, you realize there are public bathrooms upstairs, but you choose to urinate here. Could I ask you why?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Why do you urinate here?
He just simply walked away. The Square is not the only park in San Francisco with its share of peeing individuals. Garfield Square in the Mission hosts many day laborers who were at one time urinating outside despite also having a public bathroom inside the park. The city has since put a pit stop at the request of neighbors. Franklin Square at 17th and Bryant has a sign at the entrance of the park welcoming people to use this pit stop instead of relieving themselves in the bushes. But nowhere
the bushes. This isn't as big a problem, I don't think, is like because the ground's gonna absorb it, and the bushes aren't gonna smell like piss.
True. Yeah.
Peeing so common than at Dolores Park, also in the Mission. People often traded in the use.
Ma'am, Dolores Park is in the Castro.
Bathrooms for these bushes, while surrounded by the comfort of nature, until the park's renovation included a French invention. Sure. That's where we met Harris Lozer.
Le Harris.
It was here at the top of the hill that we engaged in an amicable conversation about the park's beloved pissoir.
I come here during the week to read.
Pissoir user.
And it's a world-class spot. It's great to, be able to relieve oneself.
Dolores Park has bathrooms on each side of the park, but at times not convenient for those enjoying the park at the top of the hill.
A pissoir increases the capacity. It takes the pressure off the bathrooms, which are used largely by females and people who have to do number two.
I wish there were more because sometimes a line will form and it can be harder to do it efficiently when there's a line behind you.
The city has plans to renovate Portsmouth Square starting as early as fall 2025. Rec and Park told us the plans include additional restrooms in the renovated clubhouse. But if you build them, will they use them?
So we discovered that people have complained to 311 despite what the health department told us. Now, last year, there were over 150 human waste and urine complaints across the city, including 2 for Portsmouth Square. So I'm at a loss for words here.
I know.
Police told me is that they're going to go around there, the patrol, maybe cite people. Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to cite people.
That's the only real leverage.
You think the problem is a lack of awareness that there are bathrooms a few feet away, or just kind of laziness?
No.
Oh, they know they're there.
They know, they just habit.
They're probably regulars.
Yeah. So.
All right.
All right, Leah, thank you.
Accountability?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I was hoping they were going to I was like, this is going to be the best part because they're going to try to vamp and make jokes, but none of them were comfortable making piss jokes.
No, and they were all just like, ew. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I absolutely love we're going to wait. We're going to wait for this gentleman to be done. We're going to ask him, why, sir? And all he says, thank you. It's like, obviously, yes, I'm playing cards with my homies over here. I'm fucking old. I don't have time to walk up steps and, crank my back and get my knees all cranky to go piss, right? I'm going to go piss over here in this rat hole and hopefully like kill some rats at the same time, like 2 for 1, right? And yeah, I don't care if it smells like piss because I'm just like used to it. I'm here every day. It's just like, this is the vibe. So I don't care what you think. I don't care what the public thinks. I'm going to go piss over here. And that's just generally how dudes have been since the beginning of time. So I don't know why anyone's surprised by this.
Also, it's really funny that like when they say piss in the city, I'm like the Tenderloin. I'm like immediately thinking the whole fucking neighborhood smells like piss. Nope.
Right. It's a city. I mean, it's just gonna, it's gonna happen. So like the freaking high school across the street from me smells like piss because guys, don't want to go all the way to the boys' room to fucking piss. They just go in the corner. So it, just one of those things you have to deal with. Build more opportunity, build more pissoirs, I guess.
I like the dick in a box piss idea. That's great.
No, that was fabulous. I think that's a fabulous idea. It's a great look too. You just you could be doing a lot of things. You can sort of walk up. You can be reading a book. You can be eating a croissant. You could be smoking a cigarette. You can be doing things with your hand.
What else do you do in France besides read a book, eat a croissant,
smoke a cigarette,
and take a piss at the same time?
Right, like absolutely. Pontificate, philosophize. You can talk to your friend. Right, it's just sort of waist high. Right, you could have someone across the way in a similar situation, like pissing, and you could have a conversation instead of like being in a cramped bathroom. Like that guy said, you don't want the pressure of people in line behind you, and you got to go, and you're in this like sort of walled environment. Let's have an open social piss and chat about things.
So this next story is. I'm glad they did this, but this next story is like they're just officializing something that was already the case on Fridays and Saturday nights.
Yeah, pretty much. So this is just sort of following up. I wanted to make sure we hit on it. San Jose pretty much created a little, shall we say, well, it's already there, the community, but they've now made it a little more official and a little more palatable and a little more friendly. So we're going to learn more about it from ABC.
The city is establishing a permanent pedestrian mall on part of Post Street downtown. It's just a block off First Street, but the city sees a whole lot of promise here.
This comes a little more than a year since nearby
55 South to Splash has always been a pedestrian mall on Friday and Saturday night.
For the most part.
Cars, which the city says has boosted business and helped speed up pandemic recovery downtown. ABC 7 News reporter Lauren Martinez shows us the block party with a bigger purpose.
One block of in downtown San Jose is officially closed off to cars, but open to welcoming more people. On Wednesday evening, officials celebrated the city council's vote to create downtown's second pedestrian mall.
We've sometimes been overshadowed by our smaller neighbor to the north when it comes to nightlife and activation. But
our smaller, does he mean San Francisco?
He does, in fact. That was a little snarky little side jab there.
The less cool cousin to the south is over.
Post Street is a hidden gem that's starting to sparkle more with new businesses.
Been here for 3, but we did some remodeling. It used to be a taqueria. And so we came in and we just completely...
Oh, that gentrifying asshole. That place used to be Lucy's. Fuck you.
Everything.
Not Lucy's like the taqueria, but like the lady's name was Lucy. I don't even remember the name of her fucking Chinese restaurant. Fuck you.
George Gonzalez owns the restaurant called The Club on Post Street. This closure allows him to build outdoor seating.
So when we heard the news, we were like, right away, my mind was just like, what are we doing? How are we gonna like capitalize on this to make it just more approachable from the outside of the street?
It looks like a worse place to get fucking trashed now. All these obstacles.
Can be a public space for more entertainment and gatherings, like San Pedro Square, which became a permanent pedestrian-only walkway in January of last year. With the Super Bowl, March Madness, and World Cup matches slated for the South Bay in the next year, I asked,
"Are you gearing up for it, or?"
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have
like I hope those motherfuckers don't go to Post Street.
Of other business owners that we all get together once a month and we try to bounce around to different restaurants to support them, one, and then two, to get ideas going.
Across the street is Velvet House, a women's boutique owned by Dana Moya Gonzalez, George's wife.
To be born and raised in the city and not have one but 2 businesses here is just a dream country for us.
In recent years, Post Street has been known to be the city's LGBTQ+ district.
Ma'am, the technical term is gayborhood.
Leaders plan to continue making it a welcoming space for all.
We have great visions, and I promise you in the coming years ahead, this...
Man, I've had fucking blurry vision on that street many times.
exciting, vibrant, colorful, clean place that everybody will want to come to.
You're standing in front of Max saying everybody will want to come, and I'm just going to leave that alone.
And the camera pans, and you see just city council members and their staffs, and no one from the actual community.
So
in the audience,
this literally, like, I remember, me and whoever I was dating at the time would be like, we'd go 55 South, Max, Splash, right? And like somebody from, you know, maybe Brandon or somebody would come out, and they'd be like, oh, this and that, and I'd be like, do not drive your car on Post Street. They'd be like, why? And I'd be like, I don't know, you might hit like a wayward gay. I'm like, this place on Friday, Saturday night has been like a pedestrian mall for fucking years.
Yeah, I mean, metaphorically, if nothing else, you're in spirit. But yeah, you don't see a whole lot of cars there on the weekend anyway. So this is just sort of recognizing something formally that has been the case for a long time, and it's a long time coming, and a long time coming for a lot of spots in San Jose. And I think it's they're trying to make downtown more pedestrian friendly, whatever you want to call it, multimodal friendly, and just get the cars out. And you can tell because it just takes a lot longer to drive through downtown anyway these days. So they're trying actively to make sure you get out of your car, and it's a good thing, and it's going to help. It's going to help businesses, and even the businesses that say it's not going to help.
I just hope that as part of this, they like. I saw that when I saw that place, I was like, no. The first place, I was like, no, because that was like this. The lady would close her restaurant at like 9:30, and then she'd open it back up at 1:30.
At 1:30, yeah, for the crowd. And you know that's happening regardless of the street closures. That's happening throughout downtown San Jose and a lot of other cities where the gentrification is a real thing, and it's unfortunate. It's it's just another sign of the time. So all we can say is go out and support your local businesses. If you don't want to see local businesses go away and small businesses go away, go out and support them and shop there, because that's the only way that they stay afloat is with our business and with our support. So get out there and support them, not just in words, but in action.
And we were talking about these. Are people allowed to bring their drinks out there? Because I think that they should be.
Probably not necessarily. What they're trying to do is create. The city's looking into creating entertainment zones using new state law,
where you can drink but not smoke weed. Probably
correct. So that's the idea for now. The weed smoking is coming, at least to the outdoor cafes and those spaces.
There's a place in Oakland on Broadway where I didn't have it. I had time to kill, and I was like, oh, what's a good? Yeah, I had an hour to kill. I'm like, where's a good place to kill time? I purchased a couple pre-rolls and like a cartridge, and the guy at the Cannabis Club was like, did you not see the patio?
Cannabis cafes. It's a new thing. Thank you, Matt Haney, former San Francisco supervisor for the Soma area and the Tenderloin. Change is afoot.
That actually that fucking strip needs a cannabis club.
Wouldn't it though? There was
perfect there. There was one on First, like directly across from Post, but that place was like expensive.
There was a dispensary on Post, like a medical dispensary back in the day. But yeah, that would be a great spot for one. But who knows? Maybe there's an entrepreneur out there with an endeavor that's going to start up.
Should also just start selling weed. I don't know if you've ever been to Max. It's like the divey gay bar. It's great. It's fantastic.
Well, they'd have to get vertically integrated. I don't know if we can get that vertically integrated in San Jose these days with the regulations, but we'll see what we can do.
Oh yeah, the booze and you probably can't sell booze and cannabis at the same place.
We'll see. We'll see. Things are changing. The cities need tax revenue, so they'll figure it out.
Anyway, this one went a little bit long, but I think this was probably what we had 2 weeks of news worth to do, and one of our better episodes, if I do say so myself.
I think it was it's all about the vibe and the flow of the conversation. I think we had a lot to talk about, and I felt like it was pretty lively. The chat was very lively, so thanks y'all for keeping it spicy out there.
Oh, friend, you should see the chat on the other nights. Tuesday's the slow night around here.
I'm definitely down, but I want to bring us up a notch here. So I'm going to try and jump in there and get a little more active and make sure that we're recognizing the listener and viewer who tune in every week loyally to this wonderful show. But thank you all for joining us. And
Speaking of thanking for joining us, do you mind reading the show out while I start changing the lights? And I have to go to my own pissoir.
Well, before you all head out to your pissoirs, I want to thank producer Dave, as always, for joining me on Downballot. We do this every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, except when we don't. Twitch.tv/Echoplex Media is the space, or wherever you happen to want to watch us, Odyssey or any of these other lovely platforms, except for Facebook, because fuck those motherfuckers. If you have not gotten vaccinated yet, please do that for all the things, not just COVID. Wear a mask where it's appropriate. Pants are optional. We're going to leave you with Audible Smoke, and we're going to see you next week. I hope you all have a wonderful time out there. See you next Tuesday. Peace out.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing greens. Here at the front of the stage, waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand, ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later, we're all singing Queen. I get the fuck up on stage, man, rock the scene, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, what we wanna do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink. Spark it if you got it and then pass it to me, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, what we wanna do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course, shouldn't you be inside?
I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rocking me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jocking me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily.
We do what we want, what we wanna do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want, what we wanna do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band.
Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yeah,
we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we wanna do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want, what we wanna do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit